Okay, we're not big on formality here at Farmington Rotary, but we do a couple of things. We open our meetings with the ringing of a bell, and we close our meetings with the ringing of a bell plus a little bit. And I'll talk about that at the end of the meeting. So for this morning.
And there goes the bell. Well, good morning, everybody. This is the official start of our meeting. Today we have a wonderful speaker ready to give us her total story on Rails to Trails Plus. I found that's a better way to say it because it's not just Rails to Trails, I think. Danielle will remind me of that. But when you look at the names, there's obviously a lot more going on under Rails to Trails than I realized. And even though my wife uses the Rails to Trails in West Bloomfield virtually all the time, we'll hear about a lot more of that from Danielle. Danielle Casavant is the Senior Major Gifts Officer of the Rails to Trails Conservancy. And she's here today to educate us on the whole Rails to Trails idea, what it is, what it does, and whatever else Danielle wants to go through. So Danielle, I'll give it to you.
Okay, well, I'm gonna share my screen and hopefully not have issues pulling up my PowerPoint. And make sure that I have the sound shared.
Oh, I forgot that 2 weeks ago and really confused everybody.
I am not.
It's I can see your business card and your PowerPoint.
Yeah, I had the little black 3 dots where I can make sure my sound is sharing a minute ago, and I just want to make sure that that's. Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. Okay, I didn't see the check mark before I stopped, and I did not want to get into a video and then not actually have any sound, because that does happen.
It happened to me just 2 weeks ago, and I really messed up.
Okay, and do we have the full screen? Because I see kind of my whole screen, and I don't know if you have the presentation.
Well, because we're different screens, I've got mine with the small videos of the individuals down the right-hand side, and the full screen effect of the Rails to Trails Conservancy business card. But if you want to, you can go to full screen on that down in the bottom right to go to show your slideshow. It's
there. We go.
There you go. Perfect.
Perfect. All right, and I'm going to get rid of my face over here in the corner. I think. Okay. All right. Well, first of all, I wanted to thank you for inviting me to join the Farmington Rotary today.
Just before you get going, there's a black blob on the right-hand side of the video, of the PowerPoint. Maybe it's mine. That's it.
Is that better?
Well, yes.
Okay. As Phil said, my name is Danielle Casavant, and I am a Major Gifts Officer with Rails to Trails Conservancy. RTC is based in Washington, D.C., and we have about 50 staff members. The majority of our folks are based in our D.C. office, although currently working from home all over the place. But we do have staff around the country in various regional offices. A lot of us work from home, which I do. I live in Lansing. And I've been in Lansing since around 1990. And I work from home as the Major Gifts Officer for Midwest regional programs, but then I also work with donors and foundations and our membership throughout the whole central region of the country. So Midwest down to Texas.
Wow.
And so I basically learn about the programs that we're offering and the work that we're doing, and then try my best to convey it to others who might be able to help us support that work. So I think it's always good to start out with the mission. I promise I won't just read directly from the screen, but for mission and vision, I think it's important that it's good to start out that way. And so at Rails to Trails Conservancy, we are building a nation connected by trails. We reimagine public spaces to create safe ways for everyone to walk, bike, and be active outdoors. And our vision is that trails connect everyone everywhere. And to go back to what Phil was saying, yes, we started with rails to trails, literally taking abandoned railway corridors and turning them into trails. And that kept us busy for a long time. And there's still a lot more to do. But one of the most important transitions we've made is to the philosophy of we need to connect trails. And so that might be through greenway paths, that might be through safe on-street connections, but being connected so that we can use trails as not only recreation, but a method of active transportation to help people get where they need to be in their communities. That goes to kind of what we talk about on our website, that we believe communities are healthier and happier when trail networks are central to their design. And we've been bringing power of trails to communities across the country since 1986. And we're definitely seen as the national voice for the trail movement. We have over 1 million individual members. We've helped put 24,000 miles of rail trails on the ground across the country. We've got about 8,000 queued up. We know where they can go. It's just a matter of timing and political will and funding, which always comes back to funding for just about everything, just about everything. And so our focus is on linking corridors to create trail networks that connect people, places, and bring transformative benefits to the communities that they serve. And at any point in time, if you have questions, just shout out, because I can't see your faces, so I don't know reactions or whatnot, but feel welcome to just interrupt me at any point in time. So what we do a lot. We advocate on Capitol Hill, state legislatures, local governments for investments and policies that support safe trails for walking, biking, and we want to make sure that they're accessible to people of every age and every ability. We mobilize trail supporters and the public to advocate in their own communities for safe walking and biking infrastructure, meaning we give them the tools and help them better be representatives for their trails where they live.
Right.
We partner with nationally respected organizations, federal, state, and local agencies, public leaders, and trail advocates to build trails and educate people about the value of trails in their communities. We raise money, that's where I come in. We raise funds to help develop regional trail networks that create and connect healthy, thriving communities and raise the quality of life throughout the country. We provide resources in the form of trail planning, capacity building grants, technical support, and best practices for rural, suburban, and urban communities seeking to build trails and connect systems, because much like other activities that I'm sure you're all involved in, there is no cookie cutter approach. An urban trail is different than a rail trail going through, a very suburban or even rural area of the country. And we protect trails. We are the only national organization in America solely committed to defending the preservation of former railroad corridors for continued public use. We have helped shape the legal framework around rail trails, and we continue to defend that in court. There's legal action all the time about right-of-ways, and so that's a pretty important aspect of our work. And last but not least, we speak out, which is kind of what I'm doing today, making sure that folks know who we are and what we do and how important trails are, and encouraging their use and their demand in the community. So rail trails specifically are multi-purpose paths created from former railroad corridors. They are usually flat or gently sloping because they are truly former railroads. Making them easily accessible and a great way to enjoy outdoors.
Yep.
Rail trails are ideal for many types of activities, and the rules are decided locally, so it's always important to check with your local trail managers, but they can be for walking, bicycling, wheelchair use, inline skating, cross-country skiing, horseback riding, and here in Michigan, some of them are also for snow machine use. Really just depends on the trail itself and how they want to manage it. Rail trails exist because of something called rail banking, and rail banking was established in 1983 as an amendment to the National Trails System Act, and it's a voluntary agreement between a railroad company and a trail agency to use an out-of-service rail corridor as a trail unit And a railroad might need the corridor again for rail service. So by not selling it outright or giving it away, they do retain the right to future use if needed. We hope not.
Yeah.
The interim trail use of a rail banked corridor has preserved thousands of miles of rail corridors that would otherwise have been abandoned. And I have a brief video to show you. This is Peter Rayner. He was a National Park Service employee, and he was instrumental in writing this Rail Banking Act in 1983 that we're still using that exact language to date. And it has helped create more than 175 rail trails just because of this particular piece of legislation as I try to knock over my coffee. Sorry about that.
Don't do that. That's critical.
No, I need that.
Rail banking works on the very simple concept that a railroad right-of-way is still a valuable asset even if there's no railroad using it. The legislation essentially said that use of a railroad right-of-way as a trail is a railroad purpose. Keep the railroad right-of-way intact. If the railroads ever need it, they can take it. If not, it's a wonderful trail experience.
So I think that the elephant in every room right now is COVID-19. Everybody has been impacted in ways that I don't think any of us could have imagined just,
Nope.
A year and a few months ago. Our lives just, literally turned upside down. And, we were all thinking at Rails to Trails, like, what can we do? What does this have to do with us? This, we feel kind of helpless. We're a nonprofit. We count on fundraising to get our job done. How do you go ask people to support trails when people are literally dying and people are going through some of the worst times that they've had physically, health, mental and physical, and also financially, people were impacted. But very shortly after we went into our stay safe at home, we realized that staying safe at home didn't mean you weren't going to use your local trail amenities. In fact, trail use surged to more than 200% of its normal use in April 2020 over April 20 of 19. And we started getting calls from our partners all over the country asking us, what do we do? Like, how do we make trails safe if there's going to be more people using them? And it's also a pandemic. What do we do to let people know how they should use trails, where they can use trails? And so we basically shifted gears and became a resource in a different way for our partners who we were already a resource for. We have something called the Trail Expert Network, and it's this giant database of trail managers, and we do webinars on a regular basis. We offer resources on our website, but they needed new resources and we were the only ones in the position to create them. So within a month, I would say less, I think by the end of March even, we had our first webinar talking about what can you do as a trail manager to ensure safety. How do you communicate that the trail's open, but your amenities might not be, for whether they're your own reasons or whether it's mandated by your local, state, or the CDC. So that was quite an interesting predicament that we found ourselves in, but we also thought it was a great opportunity to educate people on the value of trails. People that never used trails before were using them and noticing that you get distinct benefits from trails. And so we still are seeing today that on average, trail use is 60% higher than it was in 2019. So it definitely surged. People didn't know what to do. They went out and they were constantly on trails. Now they're still there, not at the 200% level, but 60% more trail usage, which is significant. And it's always good to point out some of the health benefits of trails. I like to reflect on this Harvard study. I think it's from 2014, but I did not put the date in my notes. But some of the things they found out about being outside, and that applies to trails, is that there's a strong connection between time spent in nature and reduced stress, anxiety, and depression. They also found that calming nature sounds, even just being silent outdoors, reduces blood pressure, levels of the stress hormone cortisol, and it calms the body's fight or flight response. And researchers also noted that people who had recently experienced stressful events in their life, like a serious illness, death of a loved one, or unemployment, had the greatest mental boost from a group nature outing. And so for those reasons, I think people inherently and subconsciously probably sought out these outdoor spaces. And we need to be able to make them available to folks. And so we felt kind of almost reinvigorated and gave us something to focus on during COVID-19. We weren't equipped to set up a food bank, but we were equipped to help our local trail managers respond to the unprecedented demand for their resource. So we couldn't have predicted it, but we're happy that we've been able to have a positive impact during the pandemic, and it continues still, as you know. So when I first got the email from Phil, he had said that he was interested in learning more about TrailLink, and that is just one of the many areas of work that Rails to Trails is involved in. So TrailLink is our proprietary app. It belongs to Rails to Trails Conservancy, and it is an app that can be used on your mobile device, but we also have a website, which I personally like, because when I'm planning a trip, I like to have my big screen and to be able to check out multiple things. And, I think it's a generational thing. Some people do everything from their phone. I use all of the modes. So TrailLink is basically a free app. Anyone can use it. You can search by location or the name of a trail if you know it. And once you get into your location, you can search by a variety of options. There is also a paid version, and I am not advertising this, but full disclosure, the free version is limited. The pay version is $30 a year, but it unlocks a lot of capability that somebody that's a really serious trail user might find beneficial. So just a brief overview, the free account gives you access to 40,000 miles of trail maps. You can still interact with people through the app by posting reviews and photos, and you can save your favorite trails, learn about new trails, and you get one free map in the app. That's a feature that is with the purchase one. And so the unlimited one, which I said is $30 a year, you can download your maps to use them offline. You can create your own custom guidebooks and trail guides. You can save your favorite maps. You can get driving directions. You can see your location on the trail when you're using TrailLink while you're out on the trail. And then find nearby restrooms and parking. So that's really important if you use trails very often.
Oh, yeah.
But also the reason that we have that feature is because we have a strong relationship with Google Maps, and we are assimilated, if you will, into the Google Places platform, which is part of the Google mapping.
Oh, cool.
And so I've got another short video for you that I think explains it better than I could, because I'm not a tech person.
We're Rails to Trails Conservancy, and this is our journey with Google Maps platform.
Rails to Trails Conservancy was founded on a very simple idea, which was to convert unused railroad corridors into multi-use pathways. Rail trails provide a great way for people to get outdoors and to connect with each other, and to give people an opportunity to do things that are good for the environment.
In the early days, since our founding in 1986, our initial efforts to promote trails were through paper guidebooks. Our partnership with Google Maps platform really started in 2007 when we were looking for a partner to help us publish all of our trail data online on our TrailLink platform. TrailLink is a trail finder service that allows users to explore trails around them. You can download our offline maps, generate dynamic driving directions to get you to our trails, and then use the app out on the trail itself to guide you on the trail experience. Google is known for its powerful search functionality, and one of the ways we're tapping into that is utilizing the Directions API, which allows users to get to and from trails, and Google Places allows folks to find trailside businesses and various amenity waypoints along the route. One of the elements we're most proud of is the symbiotic relationship between Rails to Trails Conservancy and Google Maps platform. To date, we've mapped more than 36,000 miles of multi-use trails in the US, which in turn helped the Google Transit team build out the Google Biking Directions algorithm. Since we started our partnership, we've reached more than 50 million users on our platform, connecting folks with trails.
Our goal is to reach many, many millions more. And so this partnership is just invaluable as we continue to build this movement and bring these resources to Americans all across the country.
It's not letting me advance. There we go. Ha. I don't know why there's a delay every time I stop a video, but my apologies. It's not just accepting the enter key. So I looked up Farmington, Michigan in TrailLink, and within about 50 miles from Farmington, there are results for 59 trails. And once you're in the app, like I said, you can narrow results. So this is every kind of trail that we've been made aware of and that we have mapped. And so these could be rail trails, these could be greenway corridors, they could be any kind of trail that is not on the road, so removed from traffic. And so once you look at an area and you're like, oh, that's too many to choose from, you can narrow it down by activity, meaning does the local trail manager allow bicycling? Do they allow cross-country skiing? Do they allow snow machines? That kind of thing. The surface, you know, those can change over time with lack of maintenance or great maintenance, but we know at a point in time, whether it was asphalt or concrete or crushed limestone or wood chips or dirt or grass. And so that surface can be really important based on what exactly it is that you're trying to do. Like I have a hybrid mountain bike with smooth tires. I don't want to do 10 miles on crushed limestone if I can help it. But if I had my knobby tires on, that would be fine. So,
Yep, true.
And then the length, I think the increments are like 0 to 5, 5 to 10, up to 20 plus.
Wow.
So if you know you want to get on your bike and not have to continuously go back and forth or do a tiny loop, then you're going to look for a trail that's, you know, 20 miles or more. And then the type of trail, we only have 3 types of trails that we list: rail trails, which now you are all experts on what a rail trail is. Canals, which are really popular out east. And since we started in DC and did a lot of work on the East Coast to begin with, canal paths are a huge part of the trail system on the East Coast.
Wow.
And then the other is greenways. And so I think we kind of lump anything that's not a rail trail and not a canal path into greenways, which means any kind of local path that's not a true straight low grade kind of corridor. It can be your path through a river trail, for example. You know, the Detroit River Trail would be considered a greenway. So I think that's something you all are familiar with.
Yep.
So then once you've decided on a trail, I picked the Michigan Airline Trail. Phil, is that the one your wife uses?
No. The one she goes on is in West Bloomfield and goes on, I think it goes all the way to Haggerty Road, but it comes from the east side in West Bloomfield. So
Okay.
it might,
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
no, it's okay.
So I think we might talk about that on the next slide. So I just wanted to show you what kind of quick facts you get when you open up a specific map. It'll show you a map. You can open up a map of the actual trail itself, and then it tells you where it's located, how long it is, the trail start and end points, the surface, the kind of trail, like I said, and then the activities. So one thing to note is that different segments of trails have different names, and while they might be connected, we're kind of putting them out in their own section because they're probably managed by a different entity.
I get it.
In each location. So
Sure.
While the Michigan Airline Trail is part of a much longer system, what is called the Airline Trail is this 5.5 miles from Wixom to West Bloomfield. So
And does that organization that gave it the name, does that fund or support in some way?
Sometimes it does, and sometimes it does not.
Okay.
I was reading the background on Michigan Airline, and I could not find the reason for the name, but some of them are super obvious, like the We Energies corridor in Milwaukee.
Okay.
We Energies donated the corridor, so they got to name it. So,
Yep.
sometimes it's named after the local community and that kind of thing. So this is the trail. So you can see it in Wixom and you can see West Bloomfield, but you can also see that it goes all the way up to Pontiac.
Yeah. It is the same.
uninterrupted.
It is the same trail then.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, my wife will walk on the bit that's sort of in the middle, from the one that goes vertical, going to the right to the east. She will walk that part right through the West Bloomfield Township area into Pontiac nearly.
Right, right. And this is kind of what I wanted to focus on.
That's
You
cool.
know, like I said, rail trails is how we got our start, and we're still working to make as many rail trails as possible because they make such great trails. But connections are just as important to us now.
Sure.
And so I chose to highlight this particular trail, not only because it's close to where you all are, except for our friend in Canada. But so at the east end of the trail, and I can't really point to it, but basically where you see West Bloomfield Township on the map is basically the east end of the airline trail.
Correct.
And the West Bloomfield Trail leaves there and goes further east and north, it looks like on the map.
Yeah, it goes
so
a long way.
Yeah, so the West Bloomfield Trail is another 6.8 mile segment, but then it connects to the next trail and the next trail and the next trail.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So yeah, so not far from there across M5, you connect with this little north-south feature is called the M5 Metro Trail. And that is, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead, Phil.
No, I'm saying that's a good trail.
Yeah, so it's a great little connection because it takes you down to the I-275 trail, which goes all the way 30 miles south. Now, some folks might be saying, well, I don't really want to ride a trail along 275. That's not as enjoyable as riding through the countryside. There are some spots of that trail that take you a little further away from the highway, and some places that it's really close because that's the most practical place to have it. But this is where active transportation really comes in. Think about how many communities are connected because there is a safe place to bike and walk along 275.
Yep.
And it's otherwise not that walkable or bikeable of an area.
Yeah,
and so
all the way down that to Detroit Metro Airport.
Exactly. Yep. If you take 275 to the airport, which is what I often do, you see the path almost the entire way, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
True.
And so if you go further to the west, the trail ends in Wixom, and it's only 2.2 miles to get to the Huron Valley Trail, which then you can see going further to the west and to the southwest. I don't know if that's being worked on currently. I think it is, but I think that there are, if you used Google Maps in conjunction with TrailLink, you could easily find an on-road connection to get to the other trail segment. So that's where that kind of symbiotic relationship with Google helps a lot. So you can put Wixom Trailhead to Huron Valley, Huron Valley Trailhead, and it would give you on-road directions. Then at your own risk, do you like riding on road or walking on road? Some people do and some people don't. So that's just kind of to show you the connections there.
Awesome.
And so this particular little segment, 5.4 miles, is also part of the greater Great Lake to Lake Trail.
Wow.
So I don't know if you all are familiar with this, but in Michigan, they're working on 5 different trails that are going to go east to west across the state.
My goodness.
This one is, I don't want to screw up, so I'm going to say we have 2,400 miles of trails in Michigan, and this is Route 1 spans 275 miles across the Lower Peninsula from Lake Michigan to Lake Huron, and it starts over in South Haven and it goes to Port Huron. I think most people have heard of the Cal Haven Trail, so that gets you started. Goes from South Haven to Kalamazoo.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's a pretty amazing thing. There's also, I don't know if you've heard of the Iron Bell Trail. I didn't do a slide on it, but it starts at Belle Isle and it goes to Iron Mountain.
Oh my goodness.
And there's two trails. There's a walking trail and a biking trail. Now, these are not complete. There's major sections done and you can get from point A to point B, but they're getting closer all the time. And so the walking trail follows the North Country Trail, and then the biking trail is using rail corridors and power corridors and other existing trails to
Fantastic.
connect up and through. So this is what I get for search results of just trails in Michigan.
My goodness.
To say we are trail rich would be an understatement, and we make other states jealous, which is great because we like that. There's 132 rail trails and 204 total trails. We have almost 2,500 miles of just rail trails. There are 24 projects under construction, and there's an additional 220 miles that are identified and ready to go, again, when political goodwill, funding, all of those things line up to make that possible.
And those miles, 2478, are just miles on the rail trails.
Those are just rail trail miles, yes.
Wow.
Yep. So since I have your attention, I thought I would talk to you about one of our biggest projects right now, and that is called the Great American Rail Trail. And so as early as 2006, and much earlier than that, but as early as 2006, our co-founder, David Burwell, was starting to talk publicly about his vision for this wasn't calling it the Great American Rail Trail, about an actual trail across the entire country that was accessible for all and connecting us. So this map is showing you what the railroad system looked like in 1918. At the height of America's rail network, railroads traversed the country, connecting communities along the way. As those railroad corridors began to go unused, RTC's first pursuit was not a coast-to-coast rail trail. With thousands of miles of rail corridor being abandoned each year, the first pursuit, as I mentioned earlier, was to support trail builders wherever those opportunities arose to preserve priceless corridors as multi-rail uses. The possibility of a rail trail that spans the country has been known since the mid-1980s. As RTC stood at the forefront of the trails movement that was emerging across the country, it tracked rail trails being developed east to west along the same course charted by the railroad a century ago. In fact, David Burwell had this map in his office, and like little by little, you could kind of see it emerge. It's kind of a neat folklore of RTC. Everybody gets to hear that story. You know, it's part of the indoctrination, drink the RTC Kool-Aid, that kind of thing. And then there was a vision. So now analysis of RTC's database of open trails shows that the Great American Rail Trail's preferred route is more than 50% complete, which was kind of a milestone that we had been waiting for to identify the route and make it more of a public campaign to get done. So this is another video that does more to explain the rail trail in less than 3 minutes than I could in about 20.
Imagine what's possible with a trail that connects the country. Picture pedaling across the entire country on a safe, seamless, and scenic pathway, taking in all the country has to offer from the most personal vantage point, the trail. The trail that will connect our own backyards to the next town, the next county, the next state, and all the way across the country. This is the Great American Rail Trail.
May 10th, 1869 was an important day in American history. On that day that the Golden Spike was driven and the Transcontinental Railroad was completed. The rail banking statute was essential to the creation of RTC, and its purpose was to preserve these priceless rail corridors, but in the interim, they could be used as trail. The Great American Rail Trail had been a vision of our founder. David dreamed of a trail that would connect the country just as the railroads had a century earlier. We began to see that this trail could be a tremendous gift to the nation.
Peter Harnick was one of the co-founders of Rails to Trails Conservancy. I noticed the map in Peter Harnick's office, a blue pin for a project, a red pin for a finished trail. And one day I said, well, look at that, Peter. It's lining up. We knew the potential for a cross-country trail.
Washington, D.C. was always earmarked as the eastern terminus, being our nation's capital and being home to an excellent trail network. Before we committed to bringing this vision to life, we wanted to be certain it was viable. In 2016, we began scouting potential routes through Wyoming and Montana, and we found that there was a lot of enthusiasm and momentum within the trails communities there. This prompted us to conduct an 18-month route assessment study, which helped us identify the current preferred route that we're now excited to share with the world. This route is comprised of over 125 existing trails, which are already open for use.
Partnerships are the lifeblood of this project and our movement. Local trail managers and advocates are on the front lines of creating and maintaining trails along the route. Governors are key to elevating the route through their state, and their agencies lead on implementation. We can't do this alone, and we're fortunate to already be working with valued partners, and we're beginning to make headway in terms of policies and programs that will push the Great American forward.
The Great American Rail Trail is a gift to the nation. It connects this country in a way that we really haven't experienced before. We expect this to deliver a multiplier effect, not just for those who are using the Great American Rail Trail, but all those who get involved and are inspired to take this backbone across the country, but create more networks and spines. I hope that in the short term, people will just get out there and use it. There are many, many miles of trail that are open. They're ready for people. Imagine what's
I
possible.
don't know why this keeps doing this every time.
It wants to go
I'll just
again.
keep
It's so
pressing.
excited.
It's very excited about the
Like a
Great American Rail Trail.
Trail that connects the country. Picture pedaling across the entire country on a safe, seamless, and scenic path.
So last time, if I just pressed enter a few times, it would finally go to the new
Pathway.
slide, but it's not doing it now. Oh, there we go. Apparently I can just scroll to the new slide or not. Darn. There we go. Sorry about that.
No problem at all.
I gotta figure out how to make my video stop. So I don't know about you, but I find it really exciting to think that even though I'm probably never going to walk or bike the entire 3,700 miles of the trail, that there
Although
are places.
there's a challenge.
There is a challenge and people are doing it. I'm actually part of a virtual ride right now. It's the second time it's happened where a team of us are trying to do 3,700 miles in 2 months. We didn't make it last summer when we tried, but we're trying again. So updates from the original video. This was put together 2 years ago when we launched the Great American. There are now 145 existing rail trails and greenways that are being used to create this. It is still targeted to be about 3,700 miles. Their trails that are hosting the Great American through their communities are making this grand vision possible. We're at 54% route completion on the ground. And so we were going through this process to define the preferred route of the Great American. We worked with states and trail partners to confirm a route across the country that provided the highest quality experience for all types of trail users, from long distance cyclists and runners to casual day explorers and everybody in between. The trail criteria were developed to ensure that the Great American Trail would provide safe, non-motorized travel on a route that is entirely walkable and bikeable. These trail criteria specified that the Great American Trail be one contiguous route that is reasonably direct between Washington, D.C. and Washington State. It will be separated from vehicle traffic, a minimum of 80% initially, and ultimately entirely separated when the trail is complete. It will comprise existing trails to the extent possible and will represent trail priorities of the states and local jurisdictions that host it. And it will serve as a catalyst for local economic development, including providing services for long distance travelers. The Great American promises an all new American experience through 12 states, the District of Columbia, and the trail will serve nearly 50 million people within 50 miles of the route across the nation and the world. It's one of the most daunting things we've done, but it's also probably one of the most exciting things we've done.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's neat, and it's getting amazing amount of traction and coverage. There's been stories on it across the globe. National Geographic has picked it up. USA Today has picked it up. A bunch of travel magazines. We've seen just European and UK media outlets talking about it. It's been a pretty amazing and kind of humbling experience to see how much support it has, not just in the US even, but kind of around the globe for something so unique. So that's really all I had for you today. I thank you for inviting me and the interest that you've expressed in Rails to Trails for bringing me in. I'm happy to try to answer questions that you have. I don't pretend to be an expert on all of the technical aspects. That's why I count on my program staff so heavily when I'm writing proposals and talking with donors. But if you have questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them, or happy to follow up if I can't provide an answer today.
Yeah, sure.
David.
Not quite a question, Danielle, but our community, I live in downtown Farmington, and we have a rather unique thing that parallels at least your program. We have a river that runs through it, and that river has a walk next to it that the city maintains, and it's available for anybody. It's not very long. It's about 2,500 steps round trip from one end to the other. But it's a unique item because I heard you mention a river walk. Okay, Detroit has many miles, but Farmington doesn't quite stack up to that size. So we've got one that's roughly a quarter of a mile.
And I bet people love it. It's a great amenity for your community, and hopefully they're marketing it and building off of it for your downtown, right?
They do, but not well enough in my mind. They could make a lot better use of it and promote it a lot more.
Yeah.
In partnership with everything else that goes on in the downtown Farmington area.
Yeah, preaching to the choir. Lansing has a river trail that runs through the community, and while a lot of us use it, the businesses don't embrace it the way that they should, in my personal opinion.
Right.
David?
I'm just wondering about pushback from neighboring property owners. I know over here we hear the stories about garbage left behind from people, or you mentioned horseback riding on the trails. I know a lot of people don't like following a horse because of what they leave behind. And the same with ATVs and snowmobiles. They don't feel safe if they're going down the trails.
Absolutely. And so first and foremost, I mentioned it, but I will state it again. Rails to Trails doesn't own any trails. All of the trails are owned locally, either by a municipality or a county park system, nonprofit organization. And so they all set their own rules. And those rules, we hope, with our guidance that we offer technical support, we hope that they're making the decisions on what's allowed based on community input and the size, shape, length, whatever of the trail, like what makes sense for its use. And so, yes, there is pushback sometimes. Some people are worried about noise. Some people are worried about garbage or debris. Some people are worried about crime. And those are all factors. But for the most part, we've found that trail users are people that take care of the asset because they appreciate it. Is there never garbage or debris? No, there is. There definitely is. But we found overall, and most communities find overall, that the benefits outweigh that. Sometimes if you're backed up to a trail, you can see houses that embrace it and plant flowers and make it welcoming, and some that put up a fence. So it's a very well stated point, and something that we do contend with, both positive and negative.
Yeah, I know in West Bloomfield, that trail, my wife and I were house hunting. several years ago, and there was a house that was backed up on the trail right there. You couldn't see the trail because of the foliage between it, but I thought that was a benefit because I could just hop on it at any time.
Sure.
It is an asset. A lot of people think of it as an asset, and there has been even controversy about gentrification because of trails going through communities that were not as desirable. The trail makes them desirable, and are you forcing people out? I mean, there's a lot of politics and policy involved in trail building that I never would have imagined until I joined RTC. And there's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack. And so equity and equitable developments of trails is a huge priority for Rails to Trails. We don't want to come into a community and disrupt it or change it. We want to improve it for everybody, including the people that are already along the existing trail.
The West Bloomfield Park District really promotes it as an asset to the community.
Absolutely. They do.
6 miles through, and they always talk about you can go forever and connect to those other trails. And our park district does a real good job in maintaining it and policing it, if you will. Too.
Yep.
Kind of looks like you could get lost over there.
I mean, hopefully they have good way markers. That's the other thing is that, you know, when you're managing 5 miles is, you know, this township, 6 miles is the next township. Consistency and signage can be an issue, but we try to encourage folks to work together and make it uniform so that people can see where they're going, how far it is to the next stop, those kinds of things.
Yeah, the West Bloomfield Trail is really a good trail and well signposted.
Great.
You know, I'm watching this and really enjoying hearing about it, the details, and just puts me to mind when I first contacted you to do this. I was thinking, you know, it'd be really good if we had a Rotary walk designed to use the trails as a fundraiser, because with the trails, with all of our community, the district we are in as part of Rotary is the southeast corner of Michigan and the southwest corner of Ontario. Pity we can't walk across the bridge currently.
Not right now. They don't want us.
No, they don't want us, and we don't, and to be fair, we don't want them.
Phil,
No offense, Dave.
Here's a challenge for you, Phil. If you want to plan something like that, the end of polio is around the corner.
One day.
But they also have End Polio Now torch.
Yep.
And if that torch were to be carried across the country for 3,700 miles, all by Rotarians on some segment of the trail, I think that would be a really meaningful recognition of the end of polio.
Absolutely. Well, that could be our final goal, but we could certainly start with the same idea in 6380. Yeah.
Yep, in a short form.
I see a co-branding relationship emerging.
At least.
Yeah, we borrowed the actual flame, I suppose they called it, the torch that we could carry around, and we used it for events here in Michigan. At least in the Farmington Rotary Club, we did it. But yeah, that would be a good idea.
So
I mean, a really good idea.
If you look at that trail map that you were showing earlier, Danielle, our Rotary District 6380, at least on the US side, has several Rotary clubs along that trail, and you could do that relay, if you will.
Yep.
Club walk a few miles and pass it on to the next club. That'd be sort of fun.
Yeah, even if you didn't do it real time,
right?
You could walk your segment with the flame, and when you're done, next event for the next segment could happen days later. You just pass on the flame, and they take over and do their segment. But yeah, so we have a project.
Make note of that, David.
We're actually part of a Ride Don't Hide biker walk for mental health here in our CK clubs right now, starting in June.
Excellent. Danielle, you did mention something, a virtual walk.
Yeah, so it's actually a virtual ride we're doing
Okay.
right now. So this organization separate from Rails to Trails that used to do rides and runs and things all around the country, set up a virtual Great American Ride last summer. We found out about it and we got in touch and asked if we could partner with them. And now we are a fundraising partner for the event. And so basically we sign up online and there's a whole virtual experience as you cross state borders. They welcome
My
you to the
goodness.
new state and so forth. So last year we started in Washington and went to DC. That was last August and September. This year we started in March and we started in DC and we're going to Washington and my team is in Wyoming right now. So we're getting there.
Going in which direction?
We started in DC, so
Oh, there you go.
So we got further than we did last year.
Virtual walking is probably, or riding is faster than actually doing it.
Oh, for sure, because some folks are doing it on Pelotons, and that is a lot easier than being out in the trail.
You just gave me another idea.
Oh, well, that's great. You're going to do a Peloton ride now too?
Yeah, only for those that have Pelotons. Okay. Any more questions? That was fabulous, by the way, Danielle. Absolutely fabulous.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Great program.
I
Phil,
gotta
this
say-
is Monica.
Yeah, Monica. Hi.
Yeah, Celine Rotary. Just wanted to say thank you for having such great presentations. This is the second time I've joined, and I know you guys are a small club, but boy, you get some good speakers. But Danielle, I did email you for our club. We have a lot of riders and walkers and stuff. I didn't know anything about this. Obviously, I know trails. There's the one out in Richmond, the Orchard.
Yep.
Trails. I'm aware of that one because that's where I'm from, and Stony Creek and stuff. But I didn't know there was apps and everything like that because I'm not, I'm sure that some of these bikers in our club know that. But so I sent you an email to see if you were available. But again, Phil, I just wanted to thank you for letting me jump on and see the great presentation.
No problem at all. You're really welcome.
Yeah, and that was a great idea about doing a district walk. Lynn, was it you that was crossing the Mackinac Bridge?
Yes, he is.
Yes, and not to interrupt here, but I've got a short invitation film that I'd like to show everybody, not to hold them in the meeting. If anyone has to leave, we can end the meeting officially and hold over for an after meeting group if you'd like to do it that way.
Yeah, if you like, I'd like to finish this meeting then. So we can, Monica, by all means, contact. I know you've used the email to get to Danielle, and Danielle has been really, really helpful in getting even this meeting together. I know she did some individual personal work to get this together. And I thank you very much, Danielle, for being our speaker today. It was really fabulous.
You're very welcome. I have to say I was a little nervous. It's been a long time since I've done any kind of presentation because of the pandemic. And I was like, well, I guess I'm going to ease back in with Rotary. Hopefully they'll be nice.
Yeah, we do virtual meetings like this every week.
Great. Monica, I promise to get back with you later today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Lynn.
By the way, the access code never changes. So on any given Thursday morning at 8 o'clock, if you don't have anything better to do and you want to see what's happening in Farmington, you can join our club.
Excellent.
And all our meetings are recorded and published. They go out on YouTube, but you can get to them through our farmingtonrotaryclub.org site. There's a library of all the meetings we've had, some very good ones and some just kind of good ones. This was one of the very good ones.
Oh, well, you're too kind.
And will be on our site later today.
Great.
Okay, Lynn, take it away.
All right. The second little formality that we do at the end of our official meeting is to think about, recite, however you want to do it, but the 4-way test before ringing the bell. So The Rotary four-way test, is it the truth? Is it fair to all
concerned?
Will it build
Goodwill and better friendships?
And will it be beneficial to all concerned? But official meeting adjourned.
Thank you, sir.
And if you'd like to hold over, Phil will keep the meeting open, and
I'll keep the meeting open.
I'll try to do a screen share, and I may be a lot worse than Danielle, but we'll find out.
I don't think you could be worse than playing videos that I was. So, but I would like to stay and see the video if that's okay.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, you gonna share?
Yeah, I need to share.
All right, no problem. It's still on.
All right, so. If it's too long, you can leave.
Now the trick, and even Danielle can tell you how to do that. The trick to get your audio is up at the top or on your screen. Find the little 3-dot thing. In there you can turn on sound, because I can hear it way in the background somewhere, but it's not coming through. But you need to start sharing first.
I'm not seeing what you're trying to get me
No,
to do.
you need to share your screen first. You need to be sharing a video before it will let you see that 3-dot thing. You going to try to share?
I'm going to try. I'm not seeing what I need.
I don't know about your screen, but on mine it's bottom left. Share screen on mine is the middle of the screen. It's currently green on mine. It says share screen.
Yeah, but I'm not getting anywhere. It's just hung up. Try it one more time.
This is what Danielle was afraid of.
That's right. So you can learn from my experience.
Well, it happened to me. I prefaced all of you. I did it, and I completely blew it for about half an hour before we finally got the video working.
I could not find the share sound button last night when I was practicing. I've done it a bunch of times, and I just could not find it last night. I'm like, I think they moved it. I don't know where it is. And then it's like, oh yeah, it's right over here.
And I'd totally forgotten that day that's how you do it, because I'm turning it on. I can hear it here, but nobody else would hear it. And finally I went, oh yeah, there's a button.
Well, I found the share sound and I've turned it on.
Well, you need to share the video.
But now I can't get my screen to come up that I want to share.
Well, when you click share again, you get selecting the screen you want to share it on. Oh, you want to share rather, if you've got the video.
All I'm getting is my Zoom screen.
Yeah, when you click the share, you have to select you should get a picture of various screens and you select one of them, which is containing your video.
None of them do.
Have you got the video running?
Trying, but now it won't come up.
Oh, well.
Had it up before.
Okay.
Well, we'll do it another day. I wanted David to see it because I tried to send it to him and I couldn't get it through.
Well, we'll try it with David at some point. We can come up and do another.
I'll do another meeting.
We can do another quick Zoom anytime.
Yep.
We can do a 3-person meeting.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay, guys. Thanks for that. Oh, there you go. Well, you've got it shared now, but you're just sharing the part of the screen with Zoom.
Yeah, it's not coming. It's not bringing up my
Your video.
video. So
Okay,
thank you, everybody. Been a great meeting. Hope to see you sometime around Rotary or other ways.
Somewhere. Danielle, I'll warn you, you may get contacts from all over Rotary.
Well, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciated
Thanks,
being
Danielle.
invited.
It was fantastic. Thank you.
All right. We'll talk with you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, folks, I'll end the meeting.